All right. I see like most of the messages, the candidates are saying that they can see it, so we will get started. Hello again, and welcome everybody to this webinar about Zoom. First of all, I hope everybody is keeping safe and everybody is doing okay. So this initiative or this webinar was put together to look at Zoom as a video conference or a communication tool in the current situation where virtual meetings is the only option for most of us to connect with our peers, professionally and also personally. So with that in mind, I think we have kept this webinar to be a basic session to go through Zoom as a communication tool. And if you all have any specific questions to a specific platform or using it along with a specific application, we'll probably get to that at the end. And then maybe if you post all your questions, then we can probably try to get the answers for them in the handouts. Okay, Jade, the next screen, please.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Zoom, I'm not sure how many of you have already used it, or is this your first time? If this is your first time, you probably have got a meeting link from Rosa, which you have registered yourself into, and you have clicked on that link, and that would have sort of given you the option to download the Zoom version. And that's basically how you are in this meeting room now. So for most of you, if your requirement is just to join a meeting going forward, you don't need to do anything else. This is basically all you will need to go ahead with Zoom. So every time you get an email from somebody saying that you have to join a meeting or you have requested to join a meeting, from this point onwards, all you have to do is click that meeting invite. And if it is, this is a webinar, so you've already registered, which is why there is not a password here. But if it is just a Zoom call or a meeting, you will require a meeting link and a password will be given to you. So all you have to do to get to that meeting is click on that link in an internet and then type in the password when prompted, and you will be in the meeting. So, and by now you would have seen your basic accessibility is already there. So for joining meetings, you will not need anything. But if your intention is to host meeting yourself, to talk to anybody, to probably a bigger group, professionally or personally, then if you need to host a meeting, you will have to get a Zoom account, for which we can provide the link. To register yourself in Zoom, you will need a email ID to register. And the basic account is free, which would give you like 40 minutes free meeting sessions. So you can set up a meeting for 40 minutes free just by signing in without having to pay anything. But there are advanced options like Pro, education accounts, and business accounts, which comes with increased capabilities like hosting webinars and video conferencing, and then also integrating with other apps, but they come with a charge. Okay. Jade, is there any questions right now with the basic questions, that a basic setup that we would probably need to answer?
Let me just have a look. I haven't been because I've been on the screen share.
No, I think it says everybody's able to see. And
okay. So in the Q&A, no, we haven't got any questions. Let me just have a double check at the chat. If you have questions, everyone, please could you send it into the Q&A thing, because it's quite hard to keep up with chat.
Yeah, if you can put it in the Q&A, I can probably scroll through it after every slide to see if they are appropriate and they can be answered, or we can have it to the end as well.
Brilliant. So we've got one question, and that's how much does it cost to have an education account?
Yes, so that's on the next slide. So Jade, if you just want to scroll through to the next screen, please. It's on the one next to it, but yeah, I think it's Krishna. So we'll get to that question. I've got the cost details on the next screen, Krishna. But just before we go to the next screen, here are some of the basic features of Zoom. I don't know if you all have used some of the platform before this for your calls, for virtual calls. So it would work like anything else. So you can join in into a video conference using a meeting ID, or if your host has a dedicated dial-in numbers. Some of you might have joined into this webinar as well with a phone line. And then it offers like basic features, like you can capture a screen. Right now, if anybody is interested in capturing this presentation, you could, and you could send files over and pictures over. And also, obviously, as we have seen, we are recording this meeting, which means we can save the webinars or any meetings that you want to view at a later point of time. And also the chats are all automatically saved if you want to visit them at a later point. Jade, the next screen, please. Right. So I think for people who had asked about the cost, there are various plan types. So the basic feature that we've said, it's free, and it comes with 40 minutes of free calling, but that does not give you the webinar feature. And then there is the Pro, which is 11.99, so £12 per month per host. And then there is the business account, which is $15.99, and the enterprise account. So so for this, your education will probably come into this the business account. So if you specify, if your domain is .edu, then you get education account. So for schools and other educational accounts. So based on your domain, if it is a .edu,
Hi, Nirmala. I think we lost you a little bit there. Hello, Nirmala. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me just see if you can hear. Hello, Nirmala. One second, everyone. Sorry, I'm just trying to sort this technical difficulty out. Won't be a second. Hi everyone, I'm getting your question through about the sound. I'm just trying to work with Nirmala at the moment just to work out what's going on. Hi Nirmala.
Hi, Jade. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hey,
that's much better. Can everyone hear okay?
hear and see me. I'm sorry.
No, no worries.
I'm sorry. The connection is just a little bit unstable over here.
No, no problem. Here we go.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm not sure when I went off. Jade,
Hello.
hey. I don't know. I mean, I've been speaking all this time, so I'm not sure when I went off. So what was the last thing that you guys heard from me?
Yeah, if you can just drop in the chat where we were at.
Okay, I think I was explaining about the different Zoom accounts and how you can get them. So basically, apart from the free account, everything else comes with a charge and with all the enhanced features. And in the screen above, we saw the comparison between the different accounts. So if there are any further questions, how do I create? And I can see a question asking about WhatsApp. Um, there are certain applications that you can create group meetings. WhatsApp, unfortunately, is not one of them. So you can create a meeting and share it in WhatsApp. That, of course, you can do. Those applications are integrated. So you can create your own Zoom meeting, and then you can send the invitations through WhatsApp. Not sure if this is what you were asking. Did I answer your question about WhatsApp? Okay, that's good then.
So we have a couple more questions that have come through on the Q&A. I don't know if you wanted to carry on through the presentation and ask after, but we've got a couple that might be.
Okay, yep. Yeah, I think we'll just quickly scroll through the content, and then we can we can open it to questions,
Okay.
and that might be easier. Yep. So I think since it's all virtual and online now, one of the main concerns that's come into picture is the security. And as very basic users, I think we are all concerned about online security. So any online application comes with its own risks, and there are ways to mitigate it. Similarly, in Zoom as well, there are features. There are essential safety features that you can follow to make sure that your online meetings or your content or your privacy is not violated. So this is just a comparison of what you're looking at the screen right now is just a comparison of different safety features uh, that you can enable as the host. So you can always require a password so that you know that there are no unwanted participants, or somebody who shouldn't be there is not there, and you ensure that you only have participants who have been invited. And then validating external participants. So if it is from if it's not a personal Zoom account and if it belongs to an organization, then there is always an option to validate the guest accounts through your authentication process, through the waiting room process, where you can make sure that each of the guests are on your meeting lists. And also there is a feature called waiting room. This is enabled. You will have to, I mean, it's always the best practice to keep this enabled so you know of who is going to be joining your meeting. And also to lock the meeting, that's another great feature. So once you know that you've got all your participants, it's sort of a best practice to lock a meeting so that you know that there are no intruders or there are no security concerns. Okay. And then we'll just look at some of how do you enable some of these security features. Jade, if you can just scroll to the next screen, please. So as I said, these are some of the options. So within Zoom, there is an option to use your personal meeting space. So personal meeting space, or to create a Zoom meeting. So your personal meeting space is like the default that's always available for you. Let's say it's like your own lobby, and then you can just send that if you want to have one-to-ones with your peers or with your team or anybody. But then if it is going to be a wider group of audience, the best practice would be to create a meeting, schedule a meeting, and send out specific meeting invitations with the meeting name and also a password requirement to ensure that you have the correct audience. And as I said, waiting rooms, and then guest list if it is within your organization or external organization. And then if you are if you need somebody else, if it's going to be a long meeting and if you need some more panelists or some more co-hosts, then even within a meeting, even with a free account, it's possible to assign somebody else as a co-host if you want someone else to share something or to step in for you at some point. And you can control various options, like you can either allow people to share files or block files, or screen sharing, so that no malicious content gets shared, or you have the option to control what is being shared as a facilitator. And there is also option right now. The option is in this webinar you're able to chat with everybody, but you can also control it to make sure that if you want everybody only to chat to the host or only to a particular facilitator. So there are various features depending upon the intent and content of the meeting that you can set. And the details of this, if you want more details, we can add it in the handout which we are preparing to give later in this week. I see there was a question about email accounts apart from dialing in. No, as I said, you don't need an email account to dialing the meeting. You can even share it with in your WhatsApp group or as a WhatsApp message to somebody specifically. All they will need is the meeting link, Zoom app installed in their laptop or their PCs or their mobile devices, and the meeting password. And can we scroll down, please, Jade? So these are again some of the security features. This is a response from Zoom related to the recent security concerns that have been raised for Zoom. Because of this current situation, I think the usage of Zoom as an online meeting platform has skyrocketed, and that obviously had raised a number of security concerns as well. So as a response to that, Zoom have as a software provider updated their security features as well, so that the facilitator now has a better chance of controlling their meetings to make sure that there is online security. So these are just some of the features that you can use. As a best practice, always if you're sharing your meeting passwords, please make sure that you send it securely, not to a big group, or if you want to create a group specifically just for that meeting, make sure that it is you review the participant list and send the passwords, and also the actual meeting link itself. If you can, if it is possible to send it closer to the meeting time, it gives less chance for any security violations. And as I said, if it is really sensitive and you don't want the chat as well, or you don't want anybody to transfer files or anything, that can also be controlled by the facilitator. Again, all these options, if we want detailed how-tos, we can share them in the handouts that we'll be giving out. Jade, from the questions, I think I don't see anything. Maximum number. So for the, if you have a free account, I think for a free account, your number of participants is up to 100 and the meeting time is 40 minutes. Although if you run out of the 40 minutes, you can always just dial back into the same meeting, which is possible, but you will have to step out and step in again. So even if you are a small group who cannot, who don't want to be investing, you can still do this. Just get the free account and you just need to set up meetings which are less than 40 minutes, or, you know, dial back in once again. So for renaming participants, I think as a security feature, we should disable that, so that you are the facilitator always knows that who they are talking to. This, I think this feature, so these are some of the gray areas within Zoom which can be controlled. As a default, it says they can rename themselves, but as a facilitator, if you want to, once you lock the meeting, they won't be able to, the contents are locked and they will not be able to rename themselves. Hope that answers your 25 participants. So if it is a lesser group, you can always have, I don't know if you already had a Skype account or a Microsoft Teams or whatever account you had. So Skype, if you already had Skype, Skype even now offers the capability to host meetings up to 50 participants. So that is still possible. So you can always continue using Zoom. Skype. Zoom is targeted mainly for a wider audience group where the participant list is probably more than 100. So that allows, Zoom is better catered for bigger, mm, bigger meetings and webinars. So, and also if it is only a meeting, if you have Skype, that should be enough. Again, if you want features like webinars, then Zoom is a better option. And if the audience, if the participant list is just going to be, you know, 5 to 10, if it is just 5 or 6, even a WhatsApp group is enough. A video chat within WhatsApp should also be enough. Um Yes, Skype does give you that option. You can actually call in. I saw a question over there in the chat which says, Skype, does Skype give you the chance to call the women so it doesn't cost them to log in? They will need to have a Skype account, which means it will have to be through internet. But even through a landline, if they have a phone number, if you are, if the facilitator is able to incur the cost, yes, they can call the attendee directly on their mobile phones. So I've just added a comparison, a high level comparison of Zoom versus Skype, um, just for a at a very high level. If you want more details, please do ask the questions and then we will try to answer them in our handouts. So from a price perspective, Zoom is better, Skype is better priced. It's easier. That both of them do have the free accounts, but the free accounts have very limited usage. If you are just looking for probably a weekly connect between a smaller group of 10 to 20 people of say 30 minutes every week with minimum internet connection, either one is better. If you already have Skype, you can just make use of that. Is it possible to zoom out the presentation? So this is, if it's a smaller group, then it's basically you can stick to whatever you already have. If you have a Skype, then yes, you can always continue going with Skype. As an organization, actually, we had been using only Skype till now. We are still using Skype. We are only looking to move to Zoom because of the volume of users. As a global FTSE company, we have a lot of users in various parts of the world, uh, which is why we have decided to look at Zoom. But if you are restricted to, if you're only going to be talking to, let's say, less than 50 people per week, you can just continue with the option that you currently have if you do have Skype or Teams or anything that you have at this point. Or even a simple WhatsApp would be enough if it is less than 10 participants. From a presentation, I think this is basically all we had, because we wanted to just keep it to a basic minimum. Jade, I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. We can stop this and then we can now open the house for questions.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I'll be kind of moderating the chat if you want to send across your questions, and I can relay them to Nirmala to make that easier. So we've got a question from we've got, is Skype more secure? I think you've already answered that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, Skype is more secure. From a specific standpoint, I think I can confirm that Skype does not by default allow your transcripts or your recordings to be, your Skype meetings to be recorded. So that is an inherent security feature. But Zoom allows it by default. You do have the option to control it, but the default is yes, Zoom will let you save all the meetings. It will let any participant save all the transcripts. So in that way, yes, Skype is probably a little bit more secure than Zoom. But yeah, it can be controlled as a facilitator. If you use the best practices, the normal housekeeping activities, you can secure it.
Great. I'm going to stop screen sharing, if that's okay, so that everyone can see you in full to answer
All right,
the
yeah, sure.
questions. We have a few more coming in as well that I'll just
Yeah.
relay back.
Yep.
So we have, how do you dial back for an additional 40 minutes?
So that's, once your 40 minutes is up, you will get a notification saying that your meeting has ended, your 40-minute slot is done. All you have to do is, you and your participants and all the participants will just have to use the same link and dial in back. So that will give you another 40 minutes.
Brilliant. And we have a question from Julia that is, is the webinar option an add-on cost?
Yes, it is. So apart from the basic accounts, it comes as an add-on cost. Yes, it is part of your pro or your business account. It comes in with an add-on cost.
Brilliant. And we have, are there alternative platforms that are good for webinars?
So yes, so alternative platforms are, you might have already seen, if you are using Skype, yes, that will be a good option. Or there's always Microsoft Teams that you can use. But again, Microsoft Teams is more expensive than these two. So if we are looking for affordable options, which is probably the reason why the usage of Zoom has actually increased now, because it's more affordable when we compare the other options. But the compromise you're making is you will need to be more vigilant of how you use the tool. And I have a question which says, how is the chat retrieved after a Zoom meeting ends? Well, the chats are, as a facilitator, the chat is allowed, or if you have started the chat, there is a place within your meeting where you can go and by default, it's all stored in your local machine. Or if you have a pro account, it can be saved in, it is saved in cloud and it can be shared. The details, we can provide screenshots in the handout. You can go in your meeting settings where you can see your chats, and you will say retrieve. There is an option to retrieve your chats. But if it is a free account, your chats transcripts are only stored for a day, for 24 hours. Just to watch out on that. And it says, will we get this meeting information? Yes, we will be sending out the the handouts with the how-tos of all the questions that have been asked over here, as well as the meeting recording will be shared by Rosa.
Also, please feel free to keep sending your questions either in the Q&A or in the chat.
All right, I think there are some, there was also a question earlier on, Jade, about event management. Probably if you want to raise a charity event, or if you're going to organize an event. So yes, so you can do that using a Zoom meeting itself if you want to do that. Or if you already have some other event management apps. I think the question was around Eventbrite. So if you already have an event management app, that can be integrated with Zoom through an integrator. Or if you want to directly do it through Zoom, you can still do it, because there is an option for polling, question answers, and then feedback, whiteboards. All of that is possible, but they're all part of a purchase plans and add-ons. So are we saying that Zoom as a company recorder have a transcript of your discussions in contrast to Skype? Okay, I'm just looking at the chat. And is there any charge? One of the questions was, is there a charge to have Zoom account even if I share the meeting with my group through WhatsApp? No, there is no charge. So you can still use you will have to have an account, but that can be a free account if you're just going to use it for less than 40 minutes. Or so you don't need to have you don't need to pay anything for a free account if it is only going to be a meeting restricted to less than 100 people for less than 40 minutes. And I think Rosa McRae, there was a question, how many people you can see on the screen with Zoom. With screen, it depends. So at the minute, there is a capability to see about 49 participants in the video conference. 49 participants in the video conference. Or if it is a webinar, then depending upon your add-ons, you can see more people. And there was a question from Rosa which says, are we saying that Zoom as a company record or have a transcript of your discussion in contrast to Skype? Well, yes. So a Zoom meeting can be recorded and Zoom chats are saved automatically to the facilitator or the host's computer, or if it is a company account, or if it is a group account, to the group's cloud, depending on the configuration. Unless it is controlled by the facilitator, yes, by default they are saved. I think we have answered all the questions that had come through. Jade, are you seeing anything else that I haven't answered?
So we have one in the Q&A from Julia, which is, I think you can add a feature for hard of hearing to Zoom, Otter. Can you do that with Skype or language interpretation?
With Skype. Yeah, I can check that off the top of my head. There are language options available within Skype as well, but I can check that, and I can we can answer that in the handouts, if that's okay. So I see the question from Rosa saying that to be worried if Zoom as a company can have this access. Yes, so the bigger, so as a default, your chat in your personal account can only be saved for a day. It's only the company, and which is why for the recordings or for chats transcripts to be saved to cloud, it's always better to ask the facilitators if this is going to be saved, and if it is going to be saved, it's basically awareness, knowing that if you're what you're talking and where it is going to be saved. Obviously it is a security concern, so that's why we have all these features, and awareness is the key. So when you get into a meeting, I think it's as a housekeeping, if the meeting is going to be recorded, like Jade did at the beginning, she informed everybody that it is going to be recorded, and we can have chats that will be saved and will be shared. So it's you will have to ask and get that awareness of what is what's being saved in the background, or what the facilitator is doing. So using breakout rooms are able to record the individual breakout rooms. So so I think there was a question about breakout rooms and how do you record the individual breakout rooms. So the purpose of breakout rooms is not to record the you can probably have different people record the breakout room while you are recording the plenary session. As a host, yes, by default, whatever is your breakout room, you will be able to save it. But if there are more than one, um, we will have to, I can check that and get back on that. I think that was one of the questions.
So we have another one from Lucy, which is how can you save the minutes of a meeting?
So so the minutes is how we are, so the meeting itself can be recorded, and then the minutes, there will be an option in your, if you are taking notes and you, if you want it to be part of the meeting itself, or if you have it integrated in any of your application, your whiteboards or anything you share in that, but through your default settings you can already save them. And if you want specifics of how it can be saved and retrieved, we can share that detail in the handout.
Yeah, and on that note, we have a question about will the attendees receive a handout? So yes, we'll be emailing you next week with a handout that Nirmala's going to put together along with a recording of this webinar. So you'll have all of this information to hand next week.
Yes, we're working on getting this done based on all the questions. We're trying to get them answered in our handout. So if not late this week, early next week, you should receive this, the handouts along with the recordings. Right, Jade? Are you going to be
Yes,
sharing
right.
the recording as well? Yes.
Yeah. So we have a question from Flora in the Q&A, which is, how do you schedule a meeting?
Okay. So scheduling a meeting is, you will need a basic Skype account. And then once you have your Skype account, you can either log into the application or the website and log in using your credentials. And then there are different tabs in the in your account. Jade, do you think we can probably give a simple demo of how to join a meeting if you want to share your screen and open the account? Or
Are we talking about Skype or Zoom here?
Zoom.
Zoom, okay. Hang on.
The question was scheduling a Zoom meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it's Skype, I can show it on my laptop, but
Sorry, everyone, just trying to log in. So, can everyone see that okay?
I can say, Jade.
Yeah. If everyone just wants to let me know they can see the screen. So all I've done is I'm logged in here and I've just
Yeah,
clicked
okay.
join a meeting.
Join a meeting. So this is if you have received a meeting link from somebody for the first time, when you click on that link, it will just say download Zoom. And once you download, so this is a page that it will take you to. It'll ask for a meeting ID or the link that has been provided by the host. You will just type that here and then click on join. If it's a personal meeting, then it will ask for a password again. And then you will just have to type in your password and you will be in the meeting. It will say waiting for the host to join if they've enabled that. And from then on, you should be able to just join the meeting. And to schedule a meeting, Jay, do you just want to click on schedule a meeting there? So this is, Jade has joined on the web application. You can do it even on the desktop application. So you can, if you just go on schedule a meeting, there is an option at the top. So it gives you an option here and it gives you various security options as well. And you can schedule it. And then once you schedule it, there is the option down at the bottom, which says email invitations and email notifications and things. And you can, as you can see there, alternate hosts. So you can actually get somebody to be your co-host as well, who doesn't have a host account, but they can still join as the host in this meeting. So this is actually Jade's meeting, Rosa's account, and I have just joined as the panelist. So it is possible you can do that. And Jade, do you mind going into the settings, please? If you just can you open the desktop application, Jade?
One second.
No, it's no worries. Okay, I think they have a question which says, what is a breakout room? A breakout room is exactly what it says. So in a webinar, if you have a, if you want people to, um, nip out and in, you can enable a breakout area where they can step out and then discuss something if they want outside of the scope of the meeting, or related to the meeting, and they can just join back into the meeting if there is specific part of a meeting that uh, they want to, like a particular part, a subset of the participants want to discuss. You enable this space to them so that they can just join there and discuss about this meeting while you continue with your original agenda, and then they can join back in any time, so that the host or the facilitator is still aware of what is happening, and they have they're cognizant of what's happening. So that's basically a breakout area. And is Zoom similar to Outlook when you're scheduling the meeting? Yes, it is. It is similar to Outlook. And if you integrate it in your desktop app, okay. So it will, once you schedule a meeting, then you have the option to send invitation, and then there are integrate your calendar. So you can integrate it so that the meeting goes automatically in your calendar, and you can set up email reminders and notifications to yourself and the participants as well. Yes, so the host will be able to view all the breakout sessions. Yes, and you can there are options that the host can control who do you want to go. It's a pre-meeting setting that you can set up to whom you want to be in which breakout areas. If you have designated, if you have more than one breakout area, you can restrict access as well to the breakout rooms. And yes, breakout rooms will have to be enabled beforehand.
Do we have any more questions from anyone? Feel free to drop in the chat or in the Q&A, and I can relay them back. So we have a question that's, would you be notified if all the members have joined or not?
Yes, so this is a setting that you can preset as well. You can, if you haven't set it initially, you can look into the participant list to see everybody has joined. But if you have already, there is an option to notify you or message you when the members have joined or not. So this is a setting as well that you can configure, and learn if anyone used Zoom for running community groups. So what's the difference between hosting and scheduling a meeting? Okay, I think there was a question which says, what is the difference between hosting and scheduling a meeting? So scheduling a meeting is just setting up a calendar event, whereas hosting a meeting is actually the person who is facilitating the meeting. So you can schedule a meeting and you can call all the invitees, and then within the meeting, who can take over who's running the meeting, that's most like the host. But scheduling, you can schedule it on somebody else's behalf as well if you have the account and they do not, so you can schedule a meeting. But hosting a meeting would be the person who is actually um, covering the agenda for the meeting. And it says, can Zoom be used for training purposes beyond webinar? Yes, you can use it. Like on any other online platform, you can use it for training purposes, because it does come with a whiteboard. So yes, it can be used for training purposes. And I think there is a question about renaming themselves. So yes, in Zoom, initially you log in with your name or a default account. There is a default name that you can log in with, which you given the first time, and then there is an option to rename themselves. So if a person, in the middle of the meeting, if you go, or if you want to swap with somebody else within the room and you want to rename, so that's, I think, straightforward. That is the intent uh, of that option to rename themselves. But it also gives you an opportunity to, it also, I think, gives the opportunity to use it maliciously. So the best practice again would be to prevent users from renaming themselves. If there is a need for a particular participant to leave and then come back, or for somebody to swap, it would be ideal if they can send their details to the host or the facilitator or the panelist, and then they can be advised that somebody has stepped out or swapped with somebody else. Does that answer the question about renaming?
Oh, I was going to say, Nirmala, also,
Mm-hmm.
if anyone has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as usual. But I was just thinking it might be helpful to talk through what actually is the difference between the web and the desktop app with Zoom.
Well, okay. So the desktop app is more like your personal space. Your your web account gives you all your billing, your account plan, your settings, your basic settings and all that. And your desktop app is like a condensed version of your account. So it is like a shortcut to easily create your meetings, or attend meetings, send reminders and all that. But for all your setting changes or like configuration changes, you will need to go on your account settings. So if you install Zoom as just as a participant, you get this desktop app. So you will not need the web account or the web page that Jade shared earlier. So that's only if you are a host and you need to have you have settings related to your specific account that you want to change. If you're only attending a meeting as a participant, all you need is the desktop app that gets downloaded the first time somebody sends you a meeting invite. So don't be confused if you don't happen to have the web page. That will only come when you have a dedicated account, when you create an account with your email ID and you want to do some, or you've purchased a Zoom account. Shade, did that sort of answer your
Yeah,
question?
that did. Thank you.
I think there is a question about additional training, introduction to Facebook and other social media. the intent of this meeting was specifically with regards to Zoom. For any other platforms, I think Rosa will, I'll let Jade answer that.
Yeah, so as Nirmala said, this webinar specifically is all about Zoom. Rosa, we have on our site a page that we're updating every week that's full of resources for nonprofits and women's organisations, and that does include a lot of resources around training and social media and sort of communications tools. So I can link that to you after this webinar. But yeah, this is sort of specifically to focus on Zoom.
Okay. Jade, I am not seeing any further questions.
Yeah, so if anyone has any more questions, send them through. I know this webinar is officially supposed to finish at 1:30, but of course we can finish a little bit earlier if there are no more questions. But yes, feel free to send them through. We've got a little bit more time.
Right, I think there was just one question which popped up. Having a webinar on tip for using Zoom for training. There is a training video within Zoom that the Zoom supports itself. There are online trainings for using the Zoom for different purposes. So if that is something you want to scroll through, we can, in the handout, we can provide the links for that. And there are also weekly sessions that Zoom themselves organize that are free to everybody to attend. Great. If there aren't any questions coming through, then I think I just want, as a takeaway from this meeting, I would just want to say that Zoom has gained popularity because owing to the current situation, and going forward, it looks like it will probably be the feature, if not Zoom, any other online platform. So yeah, don't restrict yourself just to Zoom. So depending on the purpose or the intent of your online sessions or your online meetings, different platforms can be, and different platforms, cost effective ones, can be chosen based on your requirements. If you have any specific requirements that have not been answered, please do email Rosa, and we will try to get the answers for you in this regard.
Yes, so as I mentioned at the start of the webinar, if you have any questions or feedback, or if there's anything that you'd like to sort of see a screen grab for or anything like that, you can just email us, and the email address I will put into the chat. It's info@rosauk.org, so we can try and sort of shape the resource around your questions too. So if we have no more questions, we can finish a little bit earlier than anticipated. If that's okay with you, Nirmala?
Yep, I don't see anything more coming through. So
So we have a question here about how to be secure when you don't know who's in the room.
yeah, so is that as a host or as a participant that you're saying? If it is a host, I think, as we said earlier itself, there are ways to actually know who is joining. So that's why you would want to authenticate all the users who are joining, and also to lock your meeting once you know everybody has joined, so that you don't have any trespasses or you don't have any security violations. But if you are a participant also, I think there are options in which there are ways in which you can make sure you're secure, depending on the how you share your contents. Yes. So if you are a participant, then yes, there are ways if you want to share, or even your if you don't want to share video, or there are always options as a participant that you don't want to that you can always control even as a participant. Even to share files or share any information or any chat, there are options who you want to share it with. Even in your chat, you can see that who you want to share your message with, or who you want to share any of information with. So just be mindful of, just take a moment to understand how you can stay secure. There are options to do that, and we will share these details. We have already shared it in the presentation, but we will also share more details around security, both as a host and also as a participant. I'm just scrolling to see if yeah, I don't see any more questions. And Yvonne, it says that the host can record the meeting. Yes, for security purposes, it's only the host that can host, or the co-host that can record the meetings, and they can later on share it with the participants.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nirmala, for that. So if we don't have any more questions, I will show my face again, if I can. In fact, no, maybe not. So yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to Nirmala for taking us through the basics of Zoom. I hope you've all learned loads from this, and as I mentioned, we'll be following up next week with a link to the recording and to a resource that will take you through everything that we've covered today, and will answer all your questions. And also, we will be organising future webinars like this one. So if you just keep an eye out on our newsletter and on Twitter and Facebook, we'll sort of get in touch with you to tell you about the next webinar that we're hosting. But yeah, thank you, Nirmala, for taking us through that.
Thank you, everyone. It was a privilege to be part of this, especially in these uncertain times. So thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
and
thank you, everyone.
Stay safe, all of you.
Brilliant. Thanks all.
Thank you.